might be one of the longest stretches I've gone without actually recording a video up here, but I'm not gonna lie, I have been completely strapped to my laptop day and night, sometimes falling asleep with this in my lap, waking up, resuming. Really, it has been that much of an obsession for me, developing my very own Mac app that deals with culling, editing, all kinds of features, some of which are already starting to show up in some of the established companies in this similar space in their like feature updates. And I haven't even officially launched this app to the public. I'm referring, of course, to the Epic workflow that I've been developing completely on my own, totally solo, since like last November or something, I think is when it like truly started. And I've had a full-time schedule of shooting weddings and everything else that goes into being a photographer throughout this whole year. I've got a little bit of a break actually in September, which is kind of unusual, but I will take it to develop and dive in even more with this app. I just want to do a quick features update and actually look through some of the results in a full client gallery so you can get a sense of what's going on. If you're totally new here and you have no idea what I'm talking about, the Epic Workflow is a Mac app that I've personally coded and created with my own completely unique and novel tech stack for the culling side, the AI, visually aware culling side of looking at a set of photos and picking out the best ones. And as I've developed this, I've trained it specifically just on my own style because I'm building this for me first and foremost. And then right now, yeah, it's available to my patrons for free if you're on my Patreon. Yes, my Patreon does cost money, but it costs the same amount as it's ever cost. And the app is available where it wasn't before. So technically it's free if you're on my Patreon. I've had so much fantastic feedback from users from just basic questions all the way through just like some people, they'll never go back to using anything else. I'm kind of surprised. And I haven't even truly begun to refine, at least on the culling side, of what this app is gonna be able to do. And it already does an amazing job. We'll get to all that. Since I initially made this video, it's literally been a process of redeveloping some of the interface to be like this, a little bit more intuitive and organized with this like tab, options versus configuration section. This is in the AI editing where you connect your Imagine account. All the AI editing side is done through Imagine's platform. They're an AI editing company that I've reviewed many times. So if you know my work, you probably know of Imagine. And they are just crushing it on AI editing, but not just that. All of their add-on features like skin smoothing, straightening, honestly, I'm thinking about building out an option to just run images through straightening because their straightening algorithm is just that good. But having like profiles and like your fine tuning and all that totally in the Imagine bucket is super helpful. You can tap into all of that stuff that you've done in the Imagine app also through my app, just to have it completely automated. If you're like me, depending on what you're photographing, if it's a wedding, I tend to use the same, like once I've got the settings set the way that I like, as far as skin smoothing and some other little features, my profile that I use for editing, I use the exact same thing every time, over and over and over. So my app kind of just builds on that in a way that like, okay, yeah, you set your settings, you hit start, and it just automatically does all that without you having to select it every single time. So anyway, I've cleaned up a lot of the actual visual element on the select only or select plus edit side. In the selection side of things, I've also cleaned this up to be visually a little bit more neat and tidy. AI selection options, you get, this I think visualizes better what I'm going for and how my culling thinks about things, okay? So some people will message me saying, hey, I've got a row of 8 photos. They're really similar. Some have eyes open, some have eyes closed, but it's like the same concept. How come the AI chose something with eyes closed right next to a photo where eyes were open? Okay. Sometimes it will just mess up and pick the wrong one. I would say 2% of the time is what I've seen. So very rarely, but you're going through 100 photos, maybe twice in that situation, you'll see, something where it just purely messed up. More likely what is happening is given that set of similar photos, it chose one with eyes open, and then looking if it's enough photos, if it's not just 1 or 2, maybe it's 8 to 18, say you have 18 images, right? It'll choose one with eyes open, and then it's gonna force itself to pick another option, okay? This is in the primary selection mode. And instead of choosing another option with just eyes open, right? Because if you have a bunch of photos with eyes open, they're the same, right? It's forcing itself to give you at least one of every distinct possibility. So I've had people say, hey, why did it select a black photo. Like that was just me putting my camera away and it took a bunch of pictures in my bag. It's gonna choose at least one of every unique idea, whether that's a group of family, a random out of focus shot that you take. Because when you start to review the results, I don't want it to have left any completely unique idea out. Whether you've taken just one unique image or just a bunch, it's gonna try and show at least one. So sometimes it's picking eyes closed on purpose, just in case it was intentional, so that you don't get that urge as much to dive in, zoom into the entire set of what it skipped over, and then zoom back out. And then you feel like you're just, why am I even bothering? If I'm constantly feeling like I need to double check what it's doing, why do I even bother? So that's been my approach to the primary selection, the default mode. And it does actually a really good job. This is primarily all I use myself. But in this other bucket, if you turn it on, Super Cull now starts to make more editorial decisions about what it's gonna leave out. So say you send it 8,000 photos, you enable Super Cull, and you only want 100, it's got to remove what are obviously going to be some good photos, but you have control over that. And you don't have to sit here with sliders and like say certain thresholds above 4 versus less than, like stuff that is very hard to grasp as to like literally what it's doing on a visual level. You can literally just select some of what I have entered by default here, or type, okay, so I've set target number of photos on it. I'm gonna say blog post about couple laughing, smiling, no eyes closed. That's it. If I start my workflow, it's gonna do the primary selection, and it's always gonna do that first. Then it's gonna take from that selection and try and refine and select exactly what I want from the Super Cull. And that is where you should see things like no eyes closed, if that's what you specified. In general, it kind of leans towards that anyway. No technically flawed images, stuff like that. And it's making a lot more editorial decisions for you there. And I think that's the best way to think about it, right? I know in your head, you might be thinking, well, why can't it just be one mode that shows me everything and we're there? You have to think about the fact that you're starting with a certain number of photos, and what does show me everything that's good mean from one photographer to another? It typically starts with how many do you want to get out of it, and then some guidance or direction about how the photos are going to be used. You might want 100 best photos of just the flowers. So you don't need any of getting ready or family photos, right? The overall redesign has been, I think, really great. The Super Cull feature overall is still in beta, and by that I mean a lot of times people will be running the app and like it won't process the Super Cull or kick back an error or whatever. And that's probably me like literally messing with the code live on the spot. And so I'm taking the service down, and I don't have a notification built in to the app yet to let you know when the service is down or not. And so that's just something that I'll get to eventually. Again, this is totally free to use right now, so I'm not overly concerned with like making it perfect for everyone all the time. Other than some redesign stuff, since the last video I made about this, I also launched 2 completely different processing modes. So I figure most photographers fall into one category or the other. I need these photos fast, as close to real time or just in the moment as I can get, or I just shot this wedding, I don't need to even start for another week or 2, like looking at these photos. So I created 2 modes to account for that. One is fast mode and one is precision mode. Fast mode is on by default. To change it, you just click this mode button. And then it describes right here for you like what the deal is. With the faster processing, it's very fast, about 10 minutes for 1,000 images. And it's gonna be a little bit more inclusive. It's gonna over-include on the call what it's choosing. In some situations, it might be, again, like, oh, why are there a few pictures of just like an out of focus shot or whatever? And it's just a little less precise. It's not as good, but the trade-off for that is like a much, much faster culling experience. If you choose precision mode, it's way slower. 1,000 images takes at least like an hour, but it surfaces way higher quality selection results. And that's actually the mode that I use the vast majority of time. It does take a long time, but I just sit back, let it run. Optionally, my app will send you a text message if you enter your phone number and let you know with an alert when it's done. So I just do that, or I fall asleep overnight. And yeah, those 2 modes are totally different, and I'm extremely impressed with what precision mode is doing. Without using Super Cull to refine stuff even further, I am getting results just that I'm very, very, very happy with. And I've also started to build out a little training mode. So it's kind of buried in here because I need to develop it a little bit further. But if you go to Culling profile, you can click train new profile, and all you have to do is name it blah, blah, blah. select, and it guides you here. I'm going to clean this up to be a little bit easier to read. All you have to do is give it a folder of something you've manually culled already. You tell it what you used for your selection status, a star rating, flag rating, whatever, as like the best photos. And it will go through and start to tune and train a special profile just on your work and your preferences. That's all you have to do. Just give it that folder and you're off. I'm still working through making that a little bit more reliable and worth it. But again, I'm just trying to go through all the updates since the last video I made a couple months ago. There's also a big workflow history. I'm gonna make all of that recoverable at some point. There's also a way to retrieve your previous Imagine project. So if you ran everything through editing and downloaded it and then accidentally lost the data or need to reapply it, start over from scratch, you can do that right here in my app. So you don't have to rerun anything through Imagine if it's the same photos. Hope you're still with me and paying attention. I'm not sure if this is interesting for anybody watching. Super exciting for me, but stick with me. I've got a few more things to talk through before we actually look through some of the culling results. I'm just gonna pick a random folder here. One thing I added was click to drag. So if you wanna start a new folder, you can remove whatever's here. In Lightroom, you can just click on one or many photos, drag it into the window, and it'll add that main root folder. So you don't have to go in here and navigate to where you want to be, although you can do that. And one cool thing, another new feature, if you're browsing through folders and you hover over something, you'll see a nice little real-time collage of like the photos that are actually in that folder, which is kind of neat. So that's all new. And yeah, okay, I'm gonna just run this quickly. Here's where you can enable notifications. You can get little photo critiques along with your alert text message of what you did great, maybe what you can improve. But just to show you one other side of this whole app, you might have noticed up here in the upper left and right corners, there's a working hard and a hardly working option, okay? This one doesn't even do anything unless the workflow is running. This one you can open, and it's a little bit of a preview into some features that are coming in the future. There's 3 different windows here. Live photo analysis, where you can literally, as it's starting to make selections and look through your photos, ask questions and talk to it, and it will even surface things that it's realizing. Pretty cool. That's still early days. I'm gonna wait to build that out. I could build it out in the next couple weeks, but that's a totally new experience, so there's not a whole lot of demand for that right now. I'm gonna wait. There's another section where you can actually look at other users. It's anonymized, but you can see if other people are like really working hard, how many photos they've run through, how many overall sessions, and you can sort by month, day, year. And I'm gonna actually expand this to do some sort of incentive, like a lifetime giveaway every 1,000,000 photos that users of my app hit. Certain milestones. I know it says it's only 1.2 million images processed. That's just because my database on the back end has gone through a bit of a overhaul. I think we're approaching almost 10 million photos actually, which is crazy. And then there's this other window, and this is a Bluetooth controller configuration. So if you've seen other videos from me, you might know that I like to actually do culling with a little game controller. There are a couple of apps that is their sole purpose. You can download them in the Mac store, run them, you map a button to the Bluetooth controller. That's great. I built that entire feature right into my app. So even if you didn't want to use it for culling or editing, you just open my app and map some buttons to some keyboard shortcuts, save it as a preset profile, and you're good to go. You can use this for free as a feature without having to do anything else. And I just find that really useful for myself, which is why I built it into the app. I'm gonna go ahead and hit start workflow for real. Just if you've missed my first video or you wanna see sort of an update of what the whole process looks like, the most interesting, fun thing about the culling selection, in my opinion, is that once it does all the initial analysis of the EXIF data, sorting by camera body, analyzing your shooting pattern, kind of like where the average gap in time is, from when you're like taking a burst of photos to doing your next thing. It's doing a lot here to try and just learn about your shooting style. Once that's processed, you'll see cluster by cluster what it's choosing and why, with a general description of what it's seeing. And that's, I don't know, to me, very interesting and fun. It's now finished. I'm in precision mode, so it's a lot slower. Again, this folder of about 1,000 photos is probably gonna take an hour. We're not gonna wait that whole time. I just wanna show you what it looks like. This cluster of images features a couple in a maternity photo shoot against a stone wall. All images are portrait orientation, capture similar poses, blah, blah, blah. It tells you, what it's choosing and why. If you're in Lightroom, you can go through and start to see the metadata tags right here, this little grayed out icon. If I hit import settings from disk, it's importing from what my app wrote to it. And that green label, that is what it selected. Ignore the purple for now, that's from an old run. But yeah, you can actually kind of just scroll through and see as it goes along if you have Lightroom open at the same time. And that's one of the cool things. Pretty much everything my app does, except for one new feature I'll get to in a moment, pretty much everything it does, you don't have to close Lightroom or open it. It works with Photo Mechanic as well. I don't do as much testing with that because I don't use Photo Mechanic myself. But yeah, it's meant to be as frictionless as possible. Okay, so we're in the select only mode. It's going to go through and yeah, make its selections. If I was in select plus edit, it would, without me having to interact with the app, do the selection, send them off for editing, and I would get an alert when everything's re-downloaded and ready for import, or just going through in Lightroom. So I'm gonna stop this workflow prematurely to dive into 3 other really cool features. Starting with, if you have auto detect from memory card as the source of the photos, there is a really robust card health checker. I don't have a memory card, of course I don't, because I'm an idiot. Yeah, if the last step in the workflow, you would like for it to check the health of your memory card, there's both a quick option and a full reformat sector by sector check that will give you an analysis of the overall health of your card. Probably you want to do that every, 6 months or so. I just built that in because, one, I don't think photographers are at all good about doing that routinely. 2, the health check apps that exist are all kind of terrible. Okay, here's one I'm really excited about. I might make a new video just demoing this by itself, but if you've ever zoomed in on Lightroom, you can do that by just hitting the space bar or clicking with your mouse, right? It goes to, by default, just the center of the shot. And if you click your mouse, it'll consistently just go back to wherever you clicked your mouse for every image. Not super helpful, in my opinion. And what Space to Face does is you just give it your Lightroom catalog, you give it a folder. I'm gonna find the folder that we're ultimately gonna go through. Here's this one, 11,000 photos. We'll see how long this takes. You can create a backup of your catalog, which I definitely recommend just in case. You can skip stuff, whatever. But what this does, I just hit process of a rate of about 10 images per second. So it's very, very, very fast. It is literally writing to the Lightroom SQL database directly. It's not doing anything with XMP. It's not doing anything to your raw files. But for every image in that folder, it is writing to the Lightroom catalog's SQL database the face locations. And we'll look at these results. Let me let it get to about, the first 300 or so. So that when you open Lightroom, when you hit space, it's gonna zoom into where the face is. The most in focus and sharp face that it can detect. It removes the necessity for what some other culling apps are doing, where you see like a collage of the zoomed in faces in the corner next to the photo you're looking at. But I've always found that kind of frustrating because now my eye is drifting and having to go from one section to the other, and you lose a sense of your composition. This is literally just hit the space bar, it zooms right into the face, hit it again, it zooms back out. I think that's pretty awesome. But once that's finished, you just go right back into your Lightroom catalog, look at any photo, hit space, you can see how it's not zooming to the center. It is zooming to a face. Space to face, pretty straightforward. It's kind of shocking. Lightroom doesn't have it built in as a feature already, especially like I've tested it. Even if you use their draw faces feature, it doesn't do anything with actually where it zooms, which is crazy. And you can even stay zoomed in and just hold the arrow button down and see all the faces that it found. If there is a face, boom, there we are. It's kind of crazy. If you wanted to do like a quick cull just based on like how sharp a face is. And I'm sure somebody's gonna rip that off very soon, if not Adobe themselves at some point. I do wanna just scroll through quickly a gallery of results. For sure, you're gonna wanna test this with your own work, but I figured this global kind of zoomed out view is a good way to just get a sense of what it's doing. I believe I ran this in precision mode, and obviously I'm using the purple color tag, and you can choose whatever you want, but I chose purple as like what my culling app is selecting. And what you should see in general is, a similar cluster of photos like these yellow flowers, and then a selection made. If it's just a small number of photos like these 2 of the schedule of the day, yeah, it's gonna pick one or the other. The goal, again, is to get at least one of every shot. Here's just one single photo I took of the house address. It included it, and I would hope for it to. Aside from that, of course, it's trying to look for what is most in focus and sharp, where the expressions, it is able to look at things like composition, quality of light, and have some greater context about why it should be choosing what it's choosing. But yeah, here's a huge burst of, I don't know, 30 photos or something, 27, and it chose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from that. And that's the average ratio that I aim for. So I don't want it to look at 37 photos and just pick the best one, typically. I want to have a few options that I can sort of tighten up the cull from if, yeah, what it chose wasn't totally great. So my method of culling, at this stage is usually not to even look at things like this. I'm just doing it for the sake of the video, to just see a bird's eye view of what it's selecting based on similar groups of photos. Normally what I do is just sort by whatever label I chose and then go through. So in this case, it selected everything in purple. From here, I'll go through, flag what I want to keep from that selection, usually in this view. And then if I feel like it missed something, or I know in the back of my head there's a better moment, I'll turn off library filters, look at the alternative options, maybe select that as well, then go back into the selection view. So I'm constantly just bird's eye view and then punching in when I need to, and then punching back out to keep things moving. And it works really, really well. This video is already way longer than I was hoping for it to be. If you have any questions in the comments, I would love to get feedback. The app is for Mac only, works on M series and Intel Macs. You can download it free on my Patreon. I'll link to it in the description. To all my patrons who have been testing and using this and enjoying it, hopefully, thank you so much for your patience. Some of my normal Patreon content, like behind the scenes and photo critiques, have been shelved just temporarily, as my extra time and energy is going into this. But hopefully you find the value just completely beyond worth it. As always, thank you so much for your attention. And yeah, I'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.